Hey, good evening, one and all. How are we doing this morning? We should be live, I'm presuming. I'm just going to double check we are on all platforms. There we go. There we go. We are live. Here we go. So let me just make sure you've got my screen over here. Cool. Okay. Sorry, I'm kind of watching YouTube and there's a little bit of delay, so that's why I'm looking a little bit gormless up there. So how's everybody doing? We've got quite a bit of movement in the market at this moment in time. We've got some hangover from the presidential debate last night. Good morning, good morning, good morning. No Jeff this morning. I should be joined by Chloe at some point, I would have thought. Good morning, Shukri. Alan, how's everybody doing? Sino and Brian, see you guys in the room. So yeah, we've had a bit of a hangover actually from the US election debate last night, and yeah, the debate was bad. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was it was pretty intense in some respects. But I don't know what did we expect. I mean, Donald Trump's on one side of the podium, so it's going to be gloves off. And interestingly, he's managed to pull Biden down to his level, just like he did to Hillary Clinton. And the odds of Biden winning have actually gone up a little bit. But I was kind of surprised to see that. Because of that, we are seeing a move to the downside. Look at this 4-hour bar here on the FTSE 100. So wouldn't mind getting a trade in the FTSE 100. Now we're going to have to do some work on it just to make sure that we don't get in too early and at the wrong price. So let me just double check what we got. Okay, that's what I need there. Okay, so it looks like 58.58-ish. Yeah. May not take too long. I wouldn't mind seeing this trend line. I think an order here would be quite good. It looks like it should run into this level here. So it looks like a sweet spot around about there. So I'm going to put an order in 58.86. 58.86. And we'll go in quite light and see what we get. So it'll be a sell limit of 58.86, and we'll have a look around the grounds in a moment. Stop loss. I think we should be fairly safe above this bar here for the stop loss. I mean, if we want to be really conservative, then we could plonk it right up here. Let's do that for now. Just see how far away they are. Oh, they're quite a bit away, actually. Yeah, let's do that, because I think if it comes through this level and retests, I wouldn't mind coming out anyway. So I'm going to go above this this area here at 59.35. So I'm going to place that in, and I am going to write this up on the screen. Oh, sure, Angel. Yes, yeah. Oh, good morning to you. How are you, by the way? I will certainly change my name. No problem at all. Here we go. And there we have it. Okay, so we have short order. So we are looking at the UK 100, and it is a short. And the short level is, it should be out there, 58.86 with a stop loss at 59.35. Now we'll go around the grounds and just see what the barometers look like right now, to see what the likelihood is that we that we get something out of this. So we've done that. Right, barometers. Let's have a look. Right, so S&P pushes down. Now let's just have a look at these on some longer term timeframes. I think some of the issue is that the S&P. It looks like it should come a little bit lower. I mean, it does. There is a potential for this one to still go a bit higher, but it looks like it should go a little bit lower. So we might get something out of it. I think it's going to be a. We'll have a look at the volatility in a moment, but it looks to me like it might be a pretty sharp day today in some respects, and all I'm hoping for is a bit of a hangover from that election. We don't have clear direction in the market whatsoever. There's the neckline of the inverted head and shoulders, but for this to create an inverted head and shoulders on this 4-hour chart, or a pattern of the like, it's going to need to come down probably to that point, and maybe even a couple of times before it goes higher. Now, I would like to see the Nasdaq higher, but I'd like to pick it up down here somewhere, rather than trading in this area. I think the ISM numbers on is it Thursday are going to be quite interesting, but I think we could see a little bit more downside in the market before we start moving genuinely higher. So I am quite keen to sell the market off. We've had a bit of a mixed bag in Asia. Decent numbers from China. Goodness me, they really are well and truly on their way of recovery. But I don't think we can say the same thing right across the globe. And if we look at what happened with the Nikkei overnight as well, pretty bad close. If we think about this is the day's range on the Nikkei, and it did close lower in the end. You can see that there's a lower close to the open, and it is on a potential area of resistance. And I think resistance just might well just pick up and down. But as I say, let's just check out some of the barometers and see what we have. What have I got here? We'll do that later on. Dollar index is just picking up a little bit, so that's the first thing that I would want to see. I want to see kind of a dollar index, moving in the opposite direction. If I am looking to go short on equities, and the dollar index is picking up a little bit, it doesn't mean that it won't fail here, but we're seeing this is just a reaction of that debate. I don't think it's any more than that. Oh, I will, sure. Okay, I will get. Yeah, Trump is very, very good at that, isn't he? He just railroads the other person. VIX is quite low, actually. VIX is quite low, but it's fairly stationary. It doesn't look like it's going any lower at this stage. That looks fairly good for a potential opportunity. So we'll see what happens with that, and see if we get put into that trade. Let's have a look at those pairs that you've just mentioned. Just going to see if we are triggered. Near triggering. Oh, I wonder whether that's a little bit higher than I'd want. There we go. Right, we should be live in the market now. So we got that trade on, and we'll see what we get. As I say, I don't think much is coming out of this. 50 up. Wow. I mean, if we can get back to these lows here, then I'll be quite keen to take the majority of the trade off. And we could take half off down there, maybe move stops to break even. If we get right down to the lows, that'd be a really, really good trade. Yeah, I'm triggered in too, Alan. Let's see how we get on. Now, if it breaks through this level, you know, because what might happen is the daily pivot might be the area that it wants to reject at. And if it goes through the daily pivot, then I think we're going to be in a little bit of trouble here. I think putting stops up any higher though would have meant the risk to reward ratio just wasn't there. So let's see if we can get the a bit of profit in the bank today, and see if the market will come down for us. Now I'm watching something else here. That's pretty good. Yeah, we don't seem to be in too bad shape. Right, let's have a look at these other bits and pieces that you have. Suggested, please have a look at the yen pairs, euro, Nazi, sorry, euro, Kiwi dollar, sorry, Kiwi, Swissy, Aussie, and the dollar. Okay, let's have a look. Euro, yen. Okay, I'm not going to ask you direction. I'm just going to give you my opinion and see if you agree. Okay. There we go, euro yen. Okay, so it's certainly looking like it's upside, isn't it? The euro yen. The question with the euro yen, this is an obvious bounce point for today. The question I would have with the euro yen is, have we gone low enough to suggest that we've got a genuine possibility of a bounce? There's your neckline, and it looks like an inverted head and shoulders is being formed here. Looks like that is being formed there. Now on short-term time frames, what do we have? Yeah, so I'd be bearish euro yen. Okay, so there's actually a couple of, so I'd be bearish euro yen. I think at this point here, and I think the stop up at this level is a really good place for it too. You have got a problem with the daily pivot, and you might prefer to see if it would come through that first. But I think euro yen for a short looks okay to me. It looks as though it might be a bit scruffy, and you may not get the initial move. The big question is, with the euro, is all about this. Let's just bring this in here. It's all about this. So she's out in 20 minutes, and given where we are, with the fact that she's speaking very soon, and what's going on with the chart, I'd want to wait on this before I committed anything. You know, it's one of those things, isn't it? I don't know whether we're going to get much of a hangover from that presidential election debate, but if we are going to get the hangover, the market's going lower today. But the fact is, there's an opportunity to sell this market off at a potential lower high. You know, this isn't a downtrend. There's a low there. There's a low there. So there's a potential lower high here after the event. So with the euro, I don't think I'd want to touch it until Christine Lagarde has spoken, because she may say something to drive the euro higher. So given that, I would suggest that breaking through that level after the speech means that this could be a buying opportunity at that level. But what I'd prefer to see, you know, on a technical basis, I'd prefer to see this this one come down. So so I'd be short on euro yen, but only and that might even put pay to the FTSE as well. To be honest, you know, we might have a bit of a problem with the FTSE trade, depending on what Christine Lagarde says. So it'd be quite nice to get some early movement, see if we can get it safe. But I'm not sure whether we're going to get that opportunity. I didn't realize she was out so early today, but she is very short, very early. Okay, so dollar yen based on the flow. Okay. I can't check the flows parameters out, but I will check out the dollar yen chart. Dollar yen, where are you? There you are. So you're short dollar yen. Just got to bring it up on my other system as well, just so I can analyze it for you properly. I will get to the other ones as well. Okay. Right, let's start out here. You're short with a flow. Okay, that's short certainly makes the most sense. Monthly pivot is close. The monthly pivot is close. The issue is going to be this trend line here. So if that is on that trend line, there's a chance that that actually the dollar could push a little bit higher into this monthly pivot before we fail. So that's a little bit, that's a shade concerning. Let's see if the setup is there with it though. Yeah, I wouldn't be keen on the short on the dollar yen personally. Yeah, I mean, there's one thing, you know, on the hourly it looks all right, doesn't it? But it would need to come through that area. You see how this you see how the trend line here is dissecting this bar? And it's you know, oftentimes it can come down and test the bar and then go higher. So I wouldn't be too bothered about the dollar yen directionally just yet. The monthly pivot is an issue. I wonder whether we might get to the monthly pivot before this one comes down. Of course, the level might be there. That might be the level. That might be the trend line that's been focused on. But I think I'd like to see this one taken out, because at least if this trend line's taken out, so is the high of that bar, which is a support level. And then we might see some move to the downside. So it looks a bit early on dollar yen. Let's just have a look at and see whether this trend line is valid. Could be. Let's just go out a little bit further. You know, the other problem with this is the bull flag. So this is really showing signs of strength rather than weakness, and I suspect that if you're in a flow trade, you're on daily time frames, and that could be a little bit of a problem. I would have thought with the dollar yen. So I'm not keen on that one, I have to say. I wouldn't be keen on that at all. And given the fact that the dollar may well strengthen Triggered one trade, but not the other. What's that one, Crystal? No, don't close it. No, don't close it because that's not the strategy. Just make sure that you note down what you've done. Alan, you're in the. Oh no, now don't close trades because the thing is, I would suspect that that the whoever calls the flow, and I think it's Mikey, would have done all his due diligence on the trade anyway. So I mean, I'm looking at it for over a 5 minute period. I'd want to know a little bit more. Technically speaking, it would be too early. I mean, it's possible that this comes down, but I'd want a bit more evidence. I'd want to see it close that hourly line, but that's not the flow. The flow relies on your daily pars, doesn't it? And I think that if the stop loss is above this area anyway, then that would be okay. So you can always get back in if you so choose. It just wouldn't be for me. But you know, whatever I'm saying is just what I would be looking at personally on a personal level. Euro Kiwi. Yeah, these monthly pivots are really quite problematic. So that is in an uptrend as well. Again, I wouldn't want to trade it before the event. Get a bit concerned about that FTSE trade. I wonder whether we should close it until after the speech. Let's just have a look here. I wonder whether it might be worth closing this until she's finished, because this could cause some problems for us here. Let's see if we get a little bit of rejection and just get a slightly better closing price. But I think I'm going to close this one down. The speech is bothering me. I'm going to close this trade. The speech is bothering me. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't necessarily get into this later on, but I'm going to close that one down. I don't like the fact that we got Christine Lagarde out and we are actually seeing some positivity. So really, you know, I was looking for a bit of a hangover from that Biden speech, the Biden-Trump thing, but it looks like Christine Lagarde might well take precedent here, and I'd prefer just to kind of stay out of the way of trouble. So let's cut our trades when we can see them going against us, and be professional about this. There's no reason for us to lose more money than necessary. So let's wait on that. If it comes back down to this level, then we won't really have lost too much. About what 15 pips, or in fact, where did we enter? It was about there, wasn't it? 15 pips or so. I don't know what percentage you guys are trading on these things, but you should be no more than 1/3% down, and really you should be going in light on these anyway. So really 1/6% down, it should be your maximum here. Yeah, I'd monitor it, Alan, for sure. You know, Mikey's going to have a good reason to get into these trades. And my reason is completely different, and I am looking on different time frames. Let me have a look at the Euro Kiwi. Right, Euro Kiwi. Let's again. Oh, we look at that, didn't we? We're starting to look at that. Yeah, so the monthly pivot's a problem. It looks to me, and it is a huge problem, because you got the monthly pivot not far away, and Christine Lagarde out. She's out now. You know, she's speaking as we are speaking. So she could say something that could drive the market one way or the other. I suspect what will happen is, if she doesn't say anything significant, then we may well get a situation that we just get back to where we were, and then we can kind of take a trade with a little bit more clarity and a bit more confidence. It's in a sell zone right now, but it does look like it may well have just popped its head through, which it has. So on a 15-minute chart, it looks like it's going higher. Bit early on this stuff. So let's just have a look at not Lagarde. What else we got? So I'd avoid the euro for a little while. Oh, sorry, no, it was the yen. It was the yen kiwi, wasn't it? Kiwi yen. Yeah, kiwi yen looks like a pretty good sell, doesn't it? Oh, I like the kiwi yen. I really like the kiwi yen. This one is good. I think this one is good for a sell. Inside bar. So we've had a gap down this morning so far, and it looks like price is just edging under those pivots there. That looks really good, and the fact that these pivots are right on top of each other is a pretty good sign, because it means that if you know, whatever time frame bar this is to close on, it'd be amazing to see this in about 40 minutes if this hasn't got through this level, because you could sell the underside of the bar and the underside of the weekly pivot. Let's just double check it on the 4 hour as well. So on the 4 hour, we've got a little bit of a shelf here. So let's go right back. Monthly. Oh, this does look really good, actually. Monthly is in a downtrend, and it looks like a potential turning point as well. You know, it looks like an inverted head and shoulders kind of area. So monthly looks good. The weekly also broken through the monthly pivot, and you know, certainly questionable here, because it looks like we may well have broken through this level here. So that's starting to look really good. I don't let me put this in. Yeah, just avoid the euro just for a little while, Sino. I would just let Christine Lagarde finish, and we'll look at that as well. But yeah, I think you've picked a good one here, Sino. I think the Kiwi yen looks decent to me. Weekly looks good. Daily looks good so far. You know, you might want to wait until the daily finishes today. I don't know, but we are under this trend line here. This does look good, really good. I'm just going to check one more thing. Yeah, I think you got a good in there, Sino. I really do. I wish I had a trade manager, because I'd be with you on this. Let's just have a look at the measurements on it. 45, 50. So there's a this here is going to have to be a take profit area right now. Tens. Really, with this one, we're either looking at the bounce to the upside. Oh no, I think this is decent. So I'm going to take this one with you, mate. 69.46. Let's just check the low there, 46.3. Might have to take it at market. Okay, maybe we don't have to do it by market. Oh God, it's gonna. The problem is, yeah, I'm gonna take that. All right, I'm taking that by market. I like that. I really like that. I think it's a really, really good pick there, buddy. Putting stop loss at the highs at the minute. But you can trade. You can use the high of that bar as your stop loss if you really wanted to. So Kiwi yen, and the thing I like about the Kiwi yen is it's not exposed to the euro situation. It looks a lot cleaner to me, or it seems a lot cleaner to me than the euro situation. So that looks decent to me. Well done, mate. I think that's a really good pick. I'm sure I've got enough on that. That's plenty. Yeah, I think that's a really good pick. I think you've done a good job there. Now let's talk about targets then on this one. Well done, Helen. I think you're right on that. I think you're right to get out of the euro yen, right? Any euro pairs right now. Just while Christine Lagarde is speaking, you know, it could cause a lot of problems. Oh, Kiwi CAD's also looking negative, is it? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? How's our CAD Swiss shaping up? I'm still watching this CAD Swiss. You see, coming out of the trade early proved to be the right choice the other day. You know, not letting us lose the whole amount of money, saving some pips on the way. It tends to work out all right. And you'll see with the FTSE, you know, the FTSE might end up being a wrong decision, but over time, I much prefer to cut the losses quickly. And then just look for something else. You know, it gives us a clear kind of clear mind to go, okay, let's have a look at something else that's a bit cleaner. Kiwi yen, I really like that one. It's a nice clean chart and it's a nice clean setup. So let's have a look at some potential areas that we could start taking profit on this one. So that trend line is the interesting point for me. Yeah, it does look to me that that this trend line here, we're probably going to need to start taking profit there. Let's just check the daily. You're in short CAD Swiss. That's great. That's really good. Ooh. I mean, I think we're going to need to take profit on the trend line. If it comes to the trend line, actually it looks pretty good there, doesn't it? Trend line looks all right. Let's just have a look at this on the dailies. Yeah, that looks good. Well, if we look down here, so 69.14 would be a first take profit area, and potentially, you know, to close all. Same with copper. I don't know how you guys traded copper the other day, but as I said, if copper looks like it's starting to turn, we got to close the trade. And it did look like it started to turn, so we closed the trade. So you should be. So we'll have a look at copper in a moment, and I'll show you what I mean. But this looks like the target down there. So so half off would be my initial choice. But if it does start to turn and looks like it is genuine going back in the opposite direction, then I close the full position there. And I show you what I mean by if it looks like it's turning in the opposite direction. We look at copper here. Now, is this copper? Yeah, we were in this copper trade. Where was it? Here. We were up here. I don't know why this hasn't gone as far as it should have done, but the copper came down to the monthly pivot down here. But as soon as you see this bar, now these are just so clean, these bars, and so surefire that that you've always got to pay attention to them. You know that the hammer is my favorite bar. It's just so crisp. And as I said, it's got to have open water either side of it. There's no bars this side. There's no price range that side. Now it's got to be directly either side. So that is a really clear signal that copper could be strengthening somewhat from this particular point. So that's when we start to close down positions. And what I like to do is just close down half of it, just in case what happens is, which can, just in case what happens is this bar then opens up and then we take out the lows and we get a really good drift to the downside. So I like to close half here, but that wasn't my intention. I wasn't intending to close any until I hit my target. And the target was actually down to here. So it's a little bit lower. Didn't quite get there. It was a little bit frustrating, but it didn't quite get there. But when you see that signal, if you see a signal bar like that, then the idea is to close half the position, see what happens with the rest of it, and then flip to shorter term timeframes to see if there is something happening on shorter term timeframes which suggests that we actually are going, things are going wrong. So we flip to the shorter term time frame down here, which is the 15. That's what I was looking at. This was the movement on the 4 hour. And as soon as this happened, because you know, at this stage we got a high, but we don't have a higher low, and it came down. Okay, you could have said at that point that it's in trouble. But as soon as this happens, then I start to think, okay, there could be a trend to the upside from here. And there was a little bit of a trend, and actually it has failed and succeeded and failed and succeeded. But that's just the way that I manage trades. I'm sort of I'm watching out to see the signs and signals. You know, am I right with my target? And will the market tell me? Will the charts tell me? And I really want to know on an hourly or a 4 hourly basis. And the hourly, probably the hourly was giving a little bit of a signal there to straight away. But with this one, because these hammers suggest that the next move will be higher, the next move was higher, but it could come to that point and then fail. So nowhere near as significant, obviously, as a 4 hour anyway, but nowhere near as significant because it had played out, you know, by the time it had got to the monthly pivot. Oh, Chloe, I've just seen you in the room.
I've been here all along, Ash.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what.
Right.
I know. I looked earlier on and I saw Angel, but I didn't see you. And now I've just been just gassing on. But we have got into a trade, so it's not completely worthless. Let's just finish up with these questions. So in the euro yen, Nasdaq in the short on the CAD long. My short CAD yen is not moving well. Open water. What's the open water reference? I've got to speak to you later on, Shukri. You might have to do it tomorrow because Orlando's in with us later, and he's gonna want to go. But yeah, I might need to speak to you later on, mate. I'm just working on something that I need to know whether it is in conjunction with Mr. Larry Williams because of what happened. That hammer was not a hammer the other day on copper. Oh, great. Yes, great. Yeah, so you need to recognize it. It's a brilliant bar. It's a superb bar, the hammer. Absolutely, you know, it's the, in my opinion, it's the best bar. Closely followed by the engulfing bar. It's another one I really like, but the hammer's just brilliant. Anyway, Chloe, what's going on your end? How's things going?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Ash. You know,
yeah, you feeling all right?
Along. Feeling all right. Yeah, just getting heavier. Getting up and down the stairs is a bit of a workout.
Well, yeah. You gotta that can be. I mean, a little bit tricky.
It always
has been. Same for me, Chloe. Yeah, I'm puffed out when I get to the top of the when I get to my office. Would I scan lower on lower time frames to detect reversal? You can do LT, but you know what? I think it's a much better process. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't do it on occasion, because you know I like to kind of like be quite open with the way I trade. But I think it's a much better practice to watch the time frame that you've seen the move on. You know, so if you've got an hourly trend going like this, watch for an hourly bar that kind of suggests that, okay, we might be changing, and then look for your lower time frame. So that's the point that I go and scale, change to my lower time frame. So whatever time frame I'm on, I try and allow that to give me the information. What I don't really want to do, and the bar is really important, because otherwise I've got to put stops there, and then potentially lose out on that chunk. But if I see a bar which suggests a potential reversal, and there's only a few bars that I'd be interested in, and the engulfing bar would be one of them, but the hammer's another one, then I'd want to go and check out my lower term timeframes and see if I've got a clean trend to the upside, to suggest that maybe it's time to come out. And it can be easier said than done. There's no two ways about it, but I would suggest you look at the bar, because the thing about any of these, if you look at copper, again, if we look at copper one more time, this is the bar on copper that happened here. And if we flip to the lower term, and it ended really there. Now, if we flip to the lower time frames, then what we've got, I'm gonna just delete this bar here. You see here, I'm going to delete that bar. But what we've got is almost a price pattern down here. You know, that's actually kind of started to accumulate. There's the trend there, if you like, on the 15-minute time frame. So you wouldn't end up coming out until there. I mean, you could serve yourself a couple of pips, but what if all of a sudden the 4-hour looks completely different? Because the issue is when we look at the shorter term time frames, trends can just fail. You know, like this one did, and that one did. You know, because we are kind of focused on the longer term time frame. But if we focus on the longer term time frame first and get a bar, then what we can then say is, well, this is looking now like it's going higher. And actually, you know, those bars, my point is that those bars create patterns on shorter term time frames. So here we actually do have an inverted head and shoulders on the shorter term time frame that started to get created from the bar, because the head was the 4-hour bar. So it will lead you to analyze what pattern is going on the shorter term time frames when you see the bar on the longer term time frame. If the copper terms, does it mean that the Aussie pairs will reverse? That I don't know, Juan. If I'm honest, it's only something that I've kind of toyed with, finding out the information for, but I don't know. I'd have to do brilliant LT, amazing. I don't know whether that's the case or not. I'd have to do some research on that, whether copper turns. And I can tell you that I am after some copper short. I'm still after copper shorts. I'm not giving up on this one. I'm really keen to short copper, but it doesn't look like the opportunities there just yet. It might be on this weekly pivot. You know, there still could be an opportunity here. But what I'm waiting for, in the same way that I've just explained about you know, what I was looking for to LT, if we think about the reverse situation, now we've got a bar here, which could suggest downside. So we go to the 15, and what's the 15 done? There's the end of it. In actual fact, that could well be taken. That could well be taken. Let me just check the 4-hour. My problem with copper is this price point here. So I'm going to hold on for a little while. If I get a clean entry here, I'm going to take it. But what I'd really like it is 66.80 for some downside. Anyway, Chloe, sorry, I keep getting waylaid. Eurocad, the Batman mask. I don't know if you've heard Jeff talk about this, Chloe, but he's got a new pattern, which is the Batman mask.
Oh, awesome.
Which I'll just have a quick look at. Eurocad. You're talking about the hourly, Shukri. It is looking like. Yeah, I will try and look into it, Wan. The problem, do you know what? The problem that I've got right now with looking into this stuff, I can only give a cursory view on it because I'm sifting through so much data at the minute to enable better trading decisions. That when we discover something like that, because your point is absolutely right. If copper turns, does it mean that the euro pairs will reverse as well? Sorry, the Aussie pairs will reverse as well. Yeah, there should be a correlation there, and we discovered it's 15% of GDP. So you would think it would. The question really for me is that the road that I want to go down? I.e., do I want to sort of like have a look at copper to trade the Aussie? And I wouldn't mind getting there. I wouldn't mind possibly if there was nothing else available. But I've got so many other forks in the road where I go, I can trade copper direct. I could trade Antofagasta, for example, a stock that has copper. And if I trade, a stock which involves copper, then I've got to go through the balance sheet of that stock. So the amount of work I've got to do to make my final decision is already fairly significant. So if I go down the Aussie route, the amount of work would be much less. So maybe I'm being a bit silly actually, and maybe I should have a look into it. And if I remember, in fact, I won't even try and remember. I'm going to write down here, look at correlation, because it would be useful for all of us. Correlation between our copper and the Aussie. I can't guarantee when that will happen, but I will try and get it done for you. Ash, that is the long play. Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to make a better choice. That's all I'm trying to do. Just make a better choice all the time. Yeah, see. So FTSE's case in point. Look at that. This is why we come out early. FTSE, it wouldn't have taken us out just yet, but it's looking pretty ugly, right? So no good for us. Doesn't mean that it's still not a potential trade. But that's why if the market doesn't do what we want it to do, then we just cut your losses. There's no reason to hold a losing trade. The Eurocad into the Robin mask. Yeah, possibly so. Anyway, Chloe, sorry, I keep getting distracted. So, what is there? That look like a Robin mask? I don't know. Is there anything you're looking at, Chloe?
Yeah, a couple of things, Ash.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Let me just have a look here. There are a few things that I've picked out. Gold is one of them. I don't know whether you've been discussing gold at all this week, but from my point of view, I'm still looking at this to the downside. We've got lower highs and lower lows here, and the area that I've been interested in is this area here, because that was the bottom of the support level that was broken. And in fact, if we look to the monthly time frame, actually let's look at the weekly. We can just see these areas here have been previous highs. So I can't get that far back on the daily, but we can see support and resistance around these two areas here. So they are relevant levels. The most relevant level, of course, is this one down here, which is a pretty strong level of resistance up there. But anyway, if we go to the daily time frame and have a look at what's happening, basically this level here that was support, I'm looking at to become resistance. In fact, it has become resistance now. I've got to get through this level here, and then I would be heading all the way down to this next level of support. So I'm quite keen to keep on at gold to the downside. We just stopped shy of this level here on the 4-hourly. I would have been looking for a nice strong rejection of this level. It just didn't quite make it up there. But what I'm going to be doing now, given that I am bearish, is I am going to be doing pretty much what you've just been talking about, Ash, which is going down to the lower time frames, just seeing if I get any kind of reversal. So I'd like to see a lower high at this point here, perhaps on the hourly, and then that will potentially give me an entry point. And if we look at the lower timeframes, for example, the hourly, it gives us plenty of reward to risk to get down to this next level of support, which actually I've been pretty conservative about, but really I could head all the way down to these lows here. So that's definitely something that's on my watch list for a move to the downside. There is a pretty similar pattern on Aussie dollar, because Aussie dollar is showing a lower high, lower low. It's pulled back to this level of what was support over here. So I'm right now, we've got it pretty much exactly at this level. I'm right now looking across time frames for reversal price action. And in fact, the 4-hourly doesn't look too bad here. We do have a seller bar. It's not an engulfing bar, unfortunately, but it's not far off. But again, hourly time frame is what interests me, because this potentially could turn into a head and shoulders pattern here. Let me just, so we would have the left hand shoulder there, the head up there, and a right hand shoulder. The right hand shoulder could form at this level, it could go through a little bit, but the important thing is once we get into a trade down there, the next level of support is quite a way off, so there could be plenty of reward to risk in that one as well. So that's one that I'm looking out for. Those of you who have been listening to me rant on for months about Aussie dollar long, I now do not have a long opinion of Aussie dollar at the moment, because I'm simply going on the trend on the daily, which is lower high, lower low. What I would need in order to start trading Aussie long again would be a higher low followed by a higher high. So until that happens, I'm happy to look for short opportunities on Aussie dollar. Kiwi dollar is similar. My concern with Kiwi dollar is that next level of support is actually a lot closer to price. So there is less reward to risk in this. I'm still bearish on Kiwi dollar. I still have bearish price action here. In fact, perfect 4-hourly price action here, right off the level with this rejection bar here. It doesn't leave me as much reward to risk to get down to this next level. But again, there may be an opportunity to get in on the hourly if we get a pullback and perhaps another opportunity to get in at a good price. I don't want to jump in while price is dropping or anything like that. I do need to wait for my strategy set up. But that's another one that I am bearish on. And euro dollar, so a lot of the majors actually at the moment are giving me the same kind of pattern. Euro dollar is the same. I've got a lower high followed by a lower low, followed by a pullback right up to pretty much exactly this level that was support, now potentially become resistance. And again, we've got really, really good price action here on the 4-hourly time frame. We've rejected that level pretty much to the pip, and price is coming down from there. Plenty of reward to risk, even if we're just looking at the previous low here, there's plenty of reward to risk there. There could be options. I mean, income creator strategy, I trade on everything down to the 15-minute time frame. So we're starting to see bearish cyclicity on the 15-minute time frame here. That could be an option as well.
What would be
so those
your
are the
play
things
here?
that I'm mainly looking at. Dollar yen, you were talking about dollar yen earlier on, Ash, and that's one that I'm not looking at so much. And
you hear me all right, Chloe?
Yeah, I hear you all right, Ash.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to ask about that euro dollar, because somebody asked about the euro dollar.
Yeah.
when you look at that euro dollar, because I quite like the euro dollar as well. Just now having another look at it. Would your play be to get in on the 15? Would your play be to have a look at on the hourly, or would it be something else? And if it is a shorter time frame, do the pivots play any part for you?
Yeah, good question, Ash. So it really depends on my strategy setup. And I don't have all of the indicators for my strategy, but let me just put the weekly pivot on there, because that will definitely have an impact if I'm going to be getting in on a lower time frame. Daily time frame, I don't really take much notice of the weekly pivot. And what we have to remember is that essentially what I'm doing here is I'm doing my analysis on the daily time frame. And the longer the stronger, as we all know, so that anything that I decide on the daily time frame takes precedence over anything I might be looking at on the 15-minute, for example. I'll always base my 15-minute trades on what I've seen on the daily. With euro dollar, if I were to get in on the 4-hourly time frame, so for example, if I were to just get in at this level with a short on the 4-hourly time frame with this rejection candle here, I wouldn't be so concerned about the weekly pivot. I would be keeping an eye on it, but it wouldn't stop me from entering the trade.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at the 15-minute time frame, then I do not want to be trading down into the weekly pivot unless I've got enough reward to risk to get me down there safely and I can make the trade into a free trade before asking price to break through that weekly pivot. So on the lower time frames, I need a free trade down to the down past the weekly pivot.
I'll tell you what, because the interesting, if you go to the hourly, I'll tell you what I'm finding quite interesting about this one. Can you draw a trend line from the 28th of September, hitting all the lows?
From down here?
Yeah. Maybe make it a little bit wider, just so it gets the at least that point's fine. The lower point's fine. Just the there. That that looks to me like it's quite interesting, because that means that if it takes out the trend line and the weekly pivot, there should be a bit of open water to the lows again, and that's what I'm looking at with the euro. Can it get through there? And obviously that's on a longer term time frame. I completely agree with you. Actually, if there's a setup on a 15, then you can trade it down to that point and see if you can get a freebie, and then you could even go through it, which would be huge risk to reward. It'd be a brilliant trade.
Yeah, I mean, if I could get a freebie above the weekly pivot, then brilliant.
Yeah.
If not, as you say, Ash, using that weekly pivot as a level of support and resistance, you could just simply wait for something like that.
Yeah.
And take a retest of that weekly pivot. Sorry, my drawing is not very good there.
I like that though.
Yeah. So and exactly that is basically what I'm looking at on all of these majors. I'm looking for, well, the ones I've pointed out at least. Aussie dollar to the downside, Kiwi dollar to the downside. They're all touching up against these levels of resistance that could potentially lead to short opportunities. One thing I wanted to look at was dollar yen, because I know you were discussing that earlier, and I just wanted to point out, in my view, the difference between dollar yen and, for example, some of these others is that we haven't yet made it up to a strong level. So I suppose I could put a level just here on dollar yen, which is this level of support. Price has really messed about with that level recently, but right now price is basically just sitting in between levels. This is approximately a trend line that you were talking about earlier, Ash, and price is just in between. So I've got nothing really to indicate that right now direction is going to change on dollar yen. I don't have a strong price point. I don't have a strong area to look for a change in direction of price. And what I've found with dollar yen recently is that it has moved and then it has ranged. And we've seen that all the time. We've got a bit of a move here, followed by a lot of choppy range, move here, followed by a bit of range. It hasn't really shown the trend continuation that I would usually expect from dollar yen, basically since the beginning of the year, pretty much. Certainly since March, since the coronavirus crisis, it's just been very, very rangy indeed. So my feeling is that this is more likely to range now. It's come to the apex of this triangle here, and then break out. So dollar yen I'm seeing slightly differently to the others, and as you say, Ash, right now I don't think that's at a price point that I personally can trade it at. But if it gets below this horizontal level here, then I'll definitely be keen to look for potential shorts. And if it breaks above this trend line and above this level here, then I'll definitely be keen to look for potential longs. But right now it's kind of trapped in the middle zone. So I'm not quite so interested in that one.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and I agree. I think the dollar's a bit of a tricky play at the minute. So is that you pretty much wrapped, Chloe?
Pretty much wrapped, Ash. Yeah. Those
Fantastic.
are the main things I'm looking at this morning. Obviously, I'll continue to look at them throughout the day, and this is me really wrapped because I will
yeah.
From
we won't be blessed with your company again now, Chloe.
Well, you will be blessed with my company again, but not until next year.
Not to the little one's born.
Yeah. Okay. There might be some more background noise next year.
Oh, it's so good of you to help us out, Chloe. We've really enjoyed having you.
Oh, it's been great, Ash. Always great to have a listen to what you and Jeff have got to say and to hang out, and
yeah. Well, hopefully it won't be too long. Can you run through the weekly pivot part of the euro dollar again? Just before, have you got a few minutes, Chloe?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so just before Chloe does that, I'm just going to bring us back to the FTSE because it's now looking pretty good again. Okay, so we're coming out at this particular point here because it looked like, Christine Lagarde, it was just no point in taking the risk on what Lagarde might say. However, this is now looking much better because we have a bar that looks like it may just settle. Now we got around about another minute and a half here before we know what's going to happen here. But if this bar settles, if price settles under this trend line, that is looking really good. So what I'm going to do, I don't think I'll trade at that particular point. I think I might give myself a little bit more room just to make sure that it's going to take out the weekly pivot. So I'm going to bring it down to this point here. Actually, might not make a difference. Let's have a look. Might have to take it on the 5. Might have to take it on the 5. The issue is going to be that there is a trend line there. The safest point looks like it's under there, but that's getting a little bit too low. Let's just see if it bounces. What I'd quite like to see, if we're going to get a nice clean entry here, what I'd quite like to see is it just come down and reject this weekly pivot on the 5, pop up, and then see if we can get in. If it doesn't do that, then I might have to wait until there. What I don't mind, the second potential option is it comes down there and then pops the weekly pivot, and then we get in. So I'm just trying to really dissect this one. But what I would love to see this tested one more time. But that looks good. You look at that on the hourly. Now we've got a much cleaner signal for some downside here. Much better. The weekly pivot is a little bit problematic. So You know, let's see if that can just reject it, reject there and reject here. Now, I don't need to see much rejection. I just need to see enough rejection there that that we can get into this with a bit more safety. It may well go, which we're not going to be able to do too much about. But if we're thinking about, you know, any time that we're trying to get into a trade, we're always trying to. It doesn't always happen, but we're always trying to buy low and sell high. If we sell here, we may well be selling low. That point is the sweet spot, really. But it's got to come up and do its thing. Now, while we wait for this, I'm just going to bring you copper, and there may well be a trade on copper coming up as well. So the idea on copper is now going to be, I'm looking at this on an hourly chart here, and the idea is that I wouldn't mind just a rejection here. A rejection and return to the daily pivot would get me back into this trade. Looks like there's a level there. Maybe it's from that low, which would work out too. So what I want to see with copper is it come through this area, down and bounce, and then I want to take it. And I won't wait for a signal here. I'm not bothered about rejection. My signal is going to be this here. But my but I won't wait for a rejection. You can go to the 5 or 15 if you want to be a little bit more conservative, which maybe we do. Maybe this doesn't happen. I mean, it's got at least 2 hours before anything happens here anyway. So it's possible that we get this in the US session. Actually, it's highly possible we get this in the US session. If it's going to come down for a few hours and we get the bounce, then we can have a look at it on some shorter term time frames, just to see what's going to happen there. Okay, back to the FTSE. But so everybody knows the plan with copper is it's basically got to break the daily pivot at 65.85. It breaks the daily pivot and closes below. Then I'm looking for, and it might not come down and bounce there. It might, the bounce might be a lot more shallow. It might just break the daily pivot down, then come back, and then I'm interested here to try and trade that and see if it will go through this time. Right, let's have a look at the FTSE. Right, let's see if this is going to reject. Chloe's always good at analysis, Alan. Might go as far as to say that she's probably the best in the company at analysis. I think you should get paid a handsome fee just for your analysis, Chloe.
Well, Ash, as a trader, we pay ourselves, don't we?
Yeah, that's very diplomatic, Chloe. Very diplomatic. Right, so what we got? 5 minutes.
The better the analysis, the better the pay.
Of course, yeah, that is very, very true. Okay, let's see what's going on with this trade here. Might be able to get in here. As I say, I don't need to see a lot of rejection. I wouldn't have minded seeing it actually touch the line, but that line may not be absolutely right. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Okay, I'm going to get ready. I'm going to get ready to take the trade here. It looks like it's struggling to get back through that area. So I'm just going to give it another couple of seconds, another few seconds just to make sure. And then I'll tell you what I might do. How close is this? That's close enough to trade under that bar. 58.78 looks like the entry. Yeah, 58.78 for an entry there. That's what I'm going to do, just so it's a little bit out of the way. And we'll see if it gets triggered in from this particular point. Because really, if you look at this bar, you know, we've been talking about hammers and things like that. You look at this bar, and this is exactly the same scenario, but on a shorter term time frame. This is a hammer. So this is suggesting 5 minutes worth of price action to the upside. Now that doesn't mean it's going to, you know, it's a trend changer, but what it also means is that the likelihood is there is stops under here. You know, we could go a couple of pips below if we want to be a little bit more certain, but it's suggesting 5 minutes of upside with stops at these lows. So if the stops are down there at those lows, then if it comes down and takes out a hammer, that's a really bearish signal. And that might well give us the drift to the downside that we need. And on this instance, I'm going to put stops at the highs here. No, I think 30 is okay. No, let's not go 30. Let's go back where they were. We'll go at 33. No, it doesn't let you do the stop loss, which is very, very irritating. So I'm going to have to put that trade back on again. $59.33. Pending order, it's a sell stop, and it is going to be at 58.78. There we go. So we've got what we need there. I'm toying with trading a rejection bar here, but is that, yeah, so close anyway. Okay, so copper does have a high spread. You're right, Helen, it does. And it's, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? You got to be pretty comfortable getting into copper. I found that out on on Fusion to my disbelief. You know, it's sort of like quite difficult to actually kind of get into a position with copper because of that very, very reason. So yeah, you've got to kind of have an account size which can handle it. So I'd say you need at least a $10,000 account to trade copper. So it might not be something that we can all trade, which maybe brings us back to that Aussie. You know, maybe that's the only thing you can use. Shukri. Yeah, me too, mate. And you know what? On Axie, it's nowhere near as expensive. You know, I just trade the futures on Axie. Nowhere near as pricey. So it's you know, there's different brokers kind of provide different products at different prices, and it is a bit tricky because of that. But yeah, I agree. It is expensive, and that's just the nature of this particular broker. Right. So what was there was there a question for you? Oh yeah, the weekly pivot, Chloe. That was what it was.
Oh yeah, all right. Let me just grab the screen very quickly. Yeah, so the weekly pivot, what I was saying about the weekly pivot was on the daily time frame, it doesn't bother me too much, but if I'm trading on an intraday time frame, then I want my strategy entry to give me the opportunity to get to a free trade before the weekly pivot, or at least by the weekly pivot. What I don't want to do is enter a trade and hope for the weekly pivot to break in order to get me into profit. So what I want is to have an entry whereby I can get in and either take half of the trade off at the weekly pivot, which then gives me a free trade, or be in a position to move my stops. Once I'm in a free trade, then it doesn't really matter whether that weekly pivot breaks or not. Obviously, ideally, it would break. And at that point, I would be interested in perhaps even scaling in. So if I were to have got into a trade around here at the level I'm looking at, then I would want to scale out at the weekly pivot to make that trade safe. That means if price bounces and comes and stops me out, I'm break even. I haven't lost anything. But if price comes down and breaks through the weekly pivot, then I'll be looking for an opportunity to get in again. So by scaling out on the first position, I haven't reduced my profit potential, I've actually increased it because I can still get in after the weekly pivot. So I see especially weekly and monthly pivots as strong levels of support and resistance, and I won't get into trades if it means having to break through those in order to get to profit or break even. Does that pretty much explain? I think that pretty much sums it up.
Sure, it will. Sure, it will. It's pretty clear, I think. Who was it who was asking about the weekly pivots? Oh, but there was LT. Does that explain it for you, LT? Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. All right, let's wrap it up then, guys. So I'm going to be back later on with Orlando, and he's going to be in with us at 1:30 UK time, and then we'll be going on to the US show later on. So we probably need to update this journal as well in the UK, in the US session. I've got a few more categories for everybody as well. So we need to maybe put some extra due diligence into our trading journal, just to make sure that we got a few other bits and pieces covered. So we're going to be doing that later on. But for the US show, we may well have, for the US preview show, we may well have a copper trade during that particular time. So join us at 1:30 and we'll see if we can get that one on. We will also, as I said, be joined by Orlando at 1:30 and also in the US show. So we'll see what he's looking at. Orlando is going to be trading some pretty heavy swings as well. So we will wrap it up there. Thanks so much, Chloe. Been so good having you on board, and we will
absolute pleasure.
Yeah, we'll wish you the best of luck. I'll give you a call in the next few days, and
do.
And we'll have a catch up. Stop beating me on Quiz Planet if you wouldn't mind.
I thought you'd turned the tables there.
Oh, do you know what? I think yeah, we might be getting a bit more level now. You've asked me so many times about body and soul. I'm starting to learn about it. So it's a bit like Roger Federer. Everybody sort of went to his backhand because it was his weakest shot, and then they sort of trained it up in a way.
Yeah.
So it's all right now. Anyway, yeah, we'll wish you the best of luck for the rest of the year, and obviously for the little one to be born, and we'll see you in the new year.
Indeed, you will.
Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you at 1:30. If not, I'll see you back with Jeff in the morning at 5 to 8. So don't